And of course, folks, you listen to that music, you never get tired of it. And these two guests that we have on tonight, one entered our living rooms every Friday night at 9 o'clock on CBS. She was the most trustworthy person for J.R. Ewing, her character, that is. And she entertained us for over 14 seasons. That, of course, is Deborah Rennard. And then our other guest, we had him on once before. You know him as the great Mikey Palmice on The Sopranos, but these two are just phenomenal entertainers as well. And we're going to talk about that a lot. And that's also our guest, Al Sepienza. And I want to thank you both for coming on today because it's a real honor as always. And I'll tell you what you two are doing these last 6-7 years is really remarkable. So thank you for coming on. I look forward to talking about this.
I have a question. In the intro, you played Neil Diamond. Why didn't you play me singing it?
That was you.
That was you.
I sound just like him. No,
you sure do.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You definitely do, and we'll get to that in a sec. But Deborah, I wanted to start with you because I had Al on. We talked a lot about his acting career. But interestingly enough, I don't know if people realize this, you got into acting for your love of singing. That's how it happened for you. But ironically, you didn't really start performing until you reached your 50s. So just tell me how the love for singing started and why it took quite some time for you to do it, on an everyday basis.
You're over 50?
Yes, I took a very circuitous route to the love of my life singing. In high school, I fell in love with the Broadway musical, right? And my dream was to move to New York City and be on Broadway. And then I, right out of high school, I got an agent immediately, and I got booked on the #1 show on television. Like, it was shocking to me. It was like my third audition. And so, then I was like, well, I can't really leave being on the #1 show on television to move to New York City and be a starving actor, right? So I just stayed with it. I just wrote it to the end. And then by the time it was over, I was in a different place in my life. I was now 30 and I wanted to get married and have a child and all this stuff. And so that just kind of went to the wayside, that dream. And then I got married, I had a kid, and I raised him. He's now 25 years old. In 2010, I separated with my husband, and I had started writing plays. I stopped acting for almost 30 years, but I had started writing plays. I was a producer with my husband, who was a filmmaker. And what happened was my first play got optioned off Broadway. And so I was coming here for meetings, and suddenly I was thinking again, God, I really want to live in New York City. I want to be in theater. And so I just decided, well, you know what? My husband and I got separated. My son was at 12 years old. I'm like, I think it's the universe is handing me the opportunity to fulfill my dream of living in New York. So we all moved out here. Wow. And then that's when I reconnected with Al, who I knew from the 80s. And he started telling me how he gets invited to these charity events and to sing. And, did I want to come with him? And so we started doing that. Yeah, we started singing here and there, a song here and there. And afterwards, people would come up to us and say, wow, you guys are great. Where are you performing? And we're like, here. Like, we don't have a show. We don't have it. And that's when we thought, well, maybe we should create a show. So we created a show based on all the songs that we love to sing. That's really how it happened. And then what happened is people said to me, well, why aren't you acting anymore? And I said, well, I don't know. I'm too old. And they're like, no, you're not. Stop it. So I got an agent. COVID happened. I did nothing for like 2.5 years. But then, as we came out of COVID, I started working again. And I was lucky enough to get, 4 or 5 jobs last year. And so, we'll see how it goes. But kind of a funny thing of coming all the way back full circle to my original love of singing.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, Deborah, what's really impressive about you is if you think about it, and this is no disrespect to the other actresses that played secretaries on that show, but no secretary on that show had as big of a role as your character Sly did. I mean, J.R. Ewing was an evil man. We know that and stuff like that. But the person he trusts more than anyone was your character Sly. And one thing about your character Sly, and sometimes it drove me nuts because he fired her twice and yet she still was loyal to him. She would never turn on him or try to set him up. So, I mean, Sly was probably the most loyal friend that J.R. Ewing ever had.
You're absolutely right. And there's an interesting story about me in that show because I was not at all what they were looking for when they were casting the role of the biggest villain in television's secretary. They called them secretaries in those days, not assistants. I was not at all right for the part. And that's actually why I got it. So even my own agent said to me, you're not right for this, but why don't you go up for it anyway? And we'll see what happens. Maybe there's another part you'll be right for. So I went in on the audition, and the executive producer, who basically ran everything, his name was Rennard, a lovely man, said to me years later at lunch, he said, you weren't what we were looking for. But when you walked in the door, and I was very sweet and innocent in those days, we're like, wow, now we have somewhere to go with this character. She can be blackmailed. She can be, all these things because she's so sweet and innocent. Nobody would expect that this would be the kind of person who would be JR's secretary. It was just a much more interesting way to cast the role. And because that's what they were looking for, that's not what they told the casting director they were looking for. So nobody else like me walked in that door. So basically they're like, oh, she's completely different. And this is interesting. And that my first day of work, when they first hired me, it was really, really funny because Larry sat across from me in that desk when we had our interview, and he kept doing these like looks at Rennard, like, I can't believe this is who you hired. Like, he thought I was so innocent looking. He called me the milkmaid for the first 2 years I was on the show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was really sweet. We had a great relationship. He was a lovely mentor to me. And it was just an amazing experience to just walk into the #1 show on television for your first job, basically.
And when I had Alan the last time, I said this to him: if you had one part that defines you, no matter what you do from, going forward, you could always have that part that you'll be remembered for forever. And in Al's case, he's linked to, Dominic on The Sopranos, playing Junior Soprano's right-hand man. And think about this. You were Larry Hackman's character's right-hand person throughout that run. So, I mean, that's not a bad thing to have on your resume. I mean, it's really awesome, I think.
Exactly. It was an amazing experience, and I just loved him so much. I grew up watching him on I Dream of Jeannie. He was hilarious. And I think it was his amazing sense of humor that made him really so popular, because he was the villain we loved to hate, because he just relished his villainousness so much. You couldn't not be interested in watching him and what he was doing.
He definitely did. And I also think about this, that I can't remember a time that one network had the best lineup on Friday nights like CBS had. At 8 o'clock, you had the Dukes of Hazzards, which lasted 7 seasons. You had Dallas at 9 o'clock that lasted 14 seasons. And then you had Falcon Crest on at 10 o'clock that lasted 9 seasons. So, I mean, it was very rare for a Friday night TV show to succeed like those three did. So that's a credit to the network and putting on good TV on Friday nights.
That's absolutely true. You're absolutely right.
Right. So let's talk about this. Al, I talked to you last time, and I think when you were in 2nd grade, your parents bought you your first drum set, and you were jamming to that. And we've talked about how your love of music became. But talk about the soundtrack of our lives, because I think that's a great name for this. I really do. And I mean, some of the songs that you guys have performed, I think in your case, Deborah, your big moment for you really was when you performed People by Barbra Streisand. And Al, I know your highlight was performing Piano Man by Billy Joel. So just talk about that a little bit and the work you two have done.
Well, the it's a little different for me. The only reason I did this singing show was to hang out with Deborah. Okay. You know, I've just loved music my whole life. One of my first memories as a tiny little kid, I had this wooden red rocking horse, and I would rock back and forth. And my parents had this Victrola downstairs, and I would listen to Bobby Rydell and Bobby Darin, and listen to Volare and See You in September, and I remember those songs. So then when I was in second grade, my father bought me a drum, and I didn't get the drum set till my confirmation in fifth grade. I got the full drum set. I love music. I love all kinds of music. I love, classical music. I love everything. So this show is the songs that we love the most. These songs are all songs that we love. We're not sure if other people love them, but they probably do, because a hit's a hit for a reason. A hit is a hit because it just speaks to people for whatever reason. Their mind, their souls, hits are hits. Hey Jude, Sounds of Silence. These songs are hits because they're great. You can't figure out a hit. You can't define a hit. You can't plan to make a hit. You just make these songs that just talk to people. So I love doing this show every single time we do it, because I love the songs. Like, the songs are just great. And I have a personal memory with every one of these songs and a personal feeling toward them. And so does Deb. And doing the show is so much fun. It's such a compliment to my acting career and the rest of my life. We have a great time,
Yeah, we do. We have an amazing time. And we're so happy that the audience enjoys themselves too.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I mean, I played a clip earlier, but just the songs I've been able to find on YouTube, and it's amazing, because I like listening to cover songs, because sometimes people. But Al said it best, and it's really true. Sometimes I think what people make the mistake of doing is they try to make it sound the way they think it should sound, and you've got to keep it the way the artists performed it. And you two both do that. I mean, we just heard Sweet Caroline. Now, if I didn't say Al was singing that song, I bet you everybody would think that was Neil Diamond. And that's a credit to Al and yourself, because you guys stay with what works. You don't try to fix something that's not broken. And I think that's important. And a lot of times I think people, when they do cover songs, they want to, tweak it a little bit and make it their way, but you have to sing it the way the audience remembers it.
That's exactly right. That's what we want to do. We want to revitalize everybody's memories, their happy memories with these songs, and I know we just, do it from our own experience. Like, when we go see, people perform, we want to hear the song the way we love and remember it. We don't want somebody else's version,
Yeah.
Perfect example. You go and you see Bruce Springsteen. I love Bruce Springsteen. I'm friends with Stevie Van Zandt. I love Stevie Van Zandt. Well, when Bruce Springsteen plays Born to Run and Philadelphia and Secret Garden, the place goes nuts. But then he plays 15 of his new songs from the new album, and people are like this. It's good. They're good. Mm-hmm. But a hit gets in people's souls. And when you're 16 and you kiss your girlfriend for the first time, and there's that hit on the radio, for some reason it stays in your body forever. And whenever you hear that song, you think of kissing your girlfriend for the first time. So yesterday, Deborah and I spent at least an hour on the phrasing of She Loves You. We've done the song 500 times or more. We spent an hour listening to the Beatles with headphones to try and sound exactly like them. Because I'm not interested in giving anyone my opinion of a song. I should be writing songs then. I should be writing original songs. I'm not. I don't have that talent. So I can sing. So I could bring these songs, and I find so much joy in it's a challenge to try and get it perfect. It actually makes it, every show is fun because it's a challenge to try and get that song as close to the original artist as possible. It's really fun. It makes it more fun for me, Can you imagine me going like, "Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take us."
Yeah. And like I always say this too, it takes a team to really make it work. And yeah, we also have to really recognize people like Michael Higgins, Ian Martin, and Russ McKinnon, because these guys are your backups. They've done work with you guys, and they're just as invaluable as you guys are to making the song so successful.
So, okay, you want to answer? I don't mean to hug you,
No,
but
go ahead.
let me explain why that is. And there's a reason for all this. We're just lucky. We knew this guy that owned an acting school in Moscow, a wealthy kid from, now he's a full-fledged man from Beverly Hills, really connected guy, really nice guy. So we decide we want to do this show in Vegas. He hooks us up with this gentleman, Joey Malati. Joey Malati is an A-lister. There's A-lister musicians like there are A-list actors, right? So Joey was Liza Minnelli's musical director for a long time. He was Michael Bolton's. He's been with Barry Manilow since the 80s. He plays 2 weeks a month at the Westgate in Vegas with Manilow. They just played Radio City. It blew us away how fantastic it was. So Joey, wherever we go, he's our guy. He gets the local musicians. We have different musicians in LA, in Vegas, in New York. And all these musicians were like, I played with Madonna. I played with the Eagles. These are top-notch musicians. We send them the material. We usually rehearse with them one day, the day before, and the songs sound just like the records. It's Joe. If we didn't have Joey, we wouldn't have those musicians. So anyway.
And here in New York, they're the top Broadway musicians. Yeah, we just rehearsed with them today.
Yeah, we rehearsed today. And they're the list of who they played with. I can't think of it now, but all the A-list acts, they played, then recorded with all of them. The guys we played with today, and we're playing with tomorrow.
Yeah, it really is. Another band that I really love that you guys cover is Simon and Garfunkel. And I'll tell you what, let me ask you, Al, you kind of grew up when they really, hit it big. Were you a big fan of them growing up?
I remember the albums in Louis Arnell's house, a kid who lived right behind me. We were like 8, 9. And I remember that Bookends album and Simon and Garfunkel. And then when I went to NYU, I was scared. Like the first semester, I was living in the city in a dorm by myself, and I would listen to Simon and Garfunkel's greatest hits to go to sleep at night on the headphones. My whole freshman year in the dorm. I loved them. They're poets. They're not even rock and roll guys. Yeah. They're poets. Both, Paul Simon is great. And my favorite stuff is what they've done together. Paul Simon's terrific, but I'm sorry, like, Kodachrome and me and Julio down at the school year. When he was with Art Garfunkel, there was just this balance, this poetic beauty, and in the, I am just this poor boy, though. Those songs were amazing. I love them, and we do Sounds of Silence.
Now, let me ask you too, do you plan on doing Mrs. Robinson at some point? Because that is a great song.
I would love to. We keep talking about how, we there's so many amazing songs we want to do. And we keep talking about, we got to do this song, we got to do that song. And then somehow, because we're also so busy now, acting and doing it, somehow we do another show, and we do the same show. But it's also so successful. People love it. So it's hard to branch out, but there's so many amazing songs. I would love to do Bridge Over Troubled Water. I'd love to do 59th Street. They're just amazing.
The Boxer.
Songs. Yeah, the Boxer.
One song that, and I think it came out in the 80s, and I know more of your stuff is 60s and 70s, but one song, when I listened to you two perform together doing duets and stuff, one song that I think you two would be outstanding with, and I hope we see it someday, is the song called Hold Me by Whitney Houston and Teddy Prendergast, because you two, I think, would just kill that song. You'd be tremendous doing it. You would just nail it.
What's the name of it again?
It's called Hold Me by Whitney Houston.
I'll listen to it tonight.
Check it out.
I love doing duets.
Yeah. And I mean, that one is like a wedding song. A lot of people use it for their wedding songs, especially, during that era. But I heard it the other day, and I said, Al and Deborah would probably do awesome singing that song.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for suggesting it.
So let me ask you both this. I mean, what is it? you're actors, and you guys, I know that not everything is live when you're acting. You record it, you make it, and then they show it. But you guys are going on live, and do you get nerves before each show, or are you just so used to doing it that it's not nerves, it's fun, and you don't let that bother you?
I think at this point, it's more excitement about it more than what you would call like being scared, like nervous. You just have an incredible amount of adrenaline. You're so pumped to get up there, sing these amazing songs, and in front of an audience that loves them as much as you do, and they truly do. I know when Al and I first started, I was terrified. And I would actually try to get out of doing the show. I was always making up excuses. Al, I can't. I'm sick. I can't. I don't know. And he thankfully, he just ignored me. He's like, Deb, what are you talking about? You sound amazing. Stop it. And he did. He just ignored me, and we just kept performing. And the thing to know is that the more you perform, the easier it gets, like anything in life, and so all of those real jittery, scary things just kind of faded away and just became this wonderful excitement.
It's a tad bit different for me. 48 hours before a show, a big show, like at the Vibratos or I have to chalk it up to nerves. I wouldn't say I'm nervous, but my personality changes for about 2 days before the show. And I'm very serious about everything. I'm very short. My patience is very short. And I'm obsessing on the details in New York, and the songs that I find hard to duplicate. And I obsess on them, and I do them over and over again. And Deborah doesn't realize it, but her personality changes 24 hours before the show also. She just doesn't know it. And in the old days when we started, she really was like terrified, almost, but she'd still sound perfect. Everything would be on pitch. The audience wouldn't know she was nervous. So they loved her right from day one. The audience, because her voice is she has a beautiful voice, and it's on pitch all the time. But yeah, it's totally different now. She's totally like relaxed into the whole thing. But no, I think I do have a little bit of nerves, and I don't think it'll ever go away. And it's kind of like with acting jobs also. If it's a great project with a great director, my personality changes a little bit beforehand. If it's just like a run-of-the-mill guest star in a TV show and I could do it in my sleep, it doesn't. But I always memorize my lines. I'm always prepared, and I always show up at work done with the work wherever I go. If you're doing, and a lot of actors don't do that. They're doing the work in the middle of the scene. I'm like, it's like trying to play tennis but you're still hitting the ball against the wall with your backhand. It's not the most fun. But anyway, that's my
nerves aside, though. It's got to be a rush for both of you when you're out there. I mean, and it probably never gets old because not only. Yes, you want approval from the audience, but you're getting to do something that you love. You're performing songs that you listen to as kids, that you've listened to as adults, and you're getting to go out there and basically perform these songs that, like, Al, you made a great point when you're dating somebody when you're 16 years old and you're thinking of a song. You're getting to do that, and you're getting to kind of live your dream in a lot of ways. So, I mean, it's got to just be so exciting when you do it.
It's the greatest.
There's nothing like it. You're absolutely right. It is, honestly, it's the best high. And especially a venue like we're singing at tomorrow night, the PNC. But we sang there last September. We opened for Michael Amonte. And I remember standing in front, for our sound check. We're standing on the stage, and, we've got the stage manager, and we got the sound engineer, and we got all these people, And I turned around and I saw like 10 people literally standing at attention, just waiting like this. And I realized they're waiting for us to tell them what we want them to do. And I started to crack up because we sing predominantly like these rooms where it's like 300 people.
We used to carry our own equipment.
Yeah, and we have like one guy who's running around doing everything, and we're running after him saying, "Can I have a water? Can I get a microphone? Can I?" All this stuff. And to be in a place like that at that level, you know, and in the middle of singing, I remember I'm singing and I'm literally saying, I have to sing less. The sound system is so powerful.
Amazing.
That I have to do less or it's going to be too much. I mean, honestly, it was like I could practically whisper and there's this enormous sound. I was like, whoa, how can you not, like, we felt like rock stars. Like, this must be what it feels like to be a rock star.
And, you know, I was in Beatlemania for 5 years. So I played, you know, 10,000 seat places on a regular basis. We never played less than 2,500, 2,700. But I was behind a drum kit with a wig on and the, you know, nose playing the ringo, you know, as I play the drums. So this, the first time ever last year, I was standing in front of 7,000 seats. 4,000 of them were filled. And like doing Sweet Caroline and doing, you know, Holly Holy by Neil Diamond and being, you know, just, the audience is part of it. It's a communication. And when they're with you, and they like our show, the people love the music we sing. So it's just, you know what I equate it to? You know, when I was in college, I tried drugs a little bit and all that stuff, but I've never been a druggie. I have 6 drinks a year. It's a lot, you know, maybe even less. I've never been into any of that. To me, this has to be like being on heroin and there's no bad side effects. Like being on stage, singing Holly Holy full out, and having all of these thousands of people loving the song. It's a natural high that has no bad side effects. So I love it. We're having so much fun.
And one of the most gratifying things too, Mike, is that after we do a show, the amount of people that come up to us afterwards and say, I can't remember the last time I had so much fun. That's what they say to us. Thank you. Thank you. They're thanking us. We're like, we had an amazing time, you know, but they're thanking us and saying, wow, you brought me so much joy. And that's how we feel. This music brings us joy.
It's a good
thing.
So
we're just passing it on to the audience, and the audience feeding it back to us. And it's
all good energy. You know what? We're having fun. They're having fun. The music is great. The musicians are great. Everyone's having a good time. And in this day and age, that's a good thing. Right, I go to these Broadway shows, you know, Jersey Boys was phenomenal. Phantom was phenomenal. Then you go to these dramas that are miserable, you know, and it's great acting and it's great storytelling. But, you know, half the art today is miserable. It's about miserable things, miserable people, murderers, killers. This is all, everybody's happy for 2 hours. It's great. Yeah. You know, people smiling and laughing and singing. It's great.
So
this is so fortunate.
Life is so hard right now. It
really is.
To be able to do this and to be able to give someone a couple of hours of happiness, it's the best.
So lucky.
It's the best. We feel blessed.
Yeah,
and you think
old, so it can stop.
Yeah,
I hope I can do this for a while longer.
And you think about this, Al and Deborah. People could, when they go to a concert, they could really only see, like you talked about Springsteen. You're only going to see Springsteen. But when these people are going to your shows, they're getting Simon and Garfunkel. They're getting Barbara Streisand. They're getting Billy Joel. They're getting so much variety of stuff they listen to. That's why the crowd comes too, because guess what? If you perform it the way, like I said, it should be performed, it's like they're right there listening to the people they grew up loving.
That's exactly right. And I think that's also why our show just seems to, I mean, we're just playing 40 minutes tomorrow night, but when we do our full 2-hour show, people say to us, it went so fast. It went so fast. I couldn't believe it. And it was 2 hours, you know, and I think it's because we do so many different kinds of music. You don't have a chance to get bored. You know, we're going from Frank Sinatra to Neil Diamond to Beatles to Simon and Garfunkel to Broadway to, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's just like, you don't know what's coming next.
You know, she made a good point because we don't do an intermission. And 2 hours is a long time. Yeah. So we were always afraid, should we cut songs? You know, and we'd ask people, tell us, is it too long? Should we cut? They're like, we thought it was too short. And it's 2 hours. People, they get up and go to the bathroom after in the middle of the thing, but Nobody, like everyone we ask, because we're thinking 2 hours. Joey used to think it was too long, but he stopped saying it because the audience, people like, no, it went by like that because we're playing. It's like listening to a number one hit station on the radio.
Right.
And you just hear like on Sirius radio.
Hit after hit.
Yeah. And no interruptions either.
Right.
And I think the show you did at the Cut-In Room, people wanted you to continue performing. I mean, obviously time ran out, but they did not want you guys to get off the stage. They wanted you to keep going. And that has to be so gratifying because that's validation for you both that we are doing a great job because these people don't want to go home.
That's right.
Yeah.
They don't. And we have them up at the end all dancing, to the Supremes and twist and shout. And they love it. They're having a great time.
And I'm not sure how, or even if what I'm saying is a true statement, but I really think it is. I think this has made my acting better. I think it has. I really do. Just being on the stage, dealing with the people right in front of me, dealing with the songs, dealing with the lyrics. That I think it improved my acting. I really do. But
what I think more importantly than anything else is like think about you, Deborah. Dallas started in 1978. I think you came on in 1980, and Al, The Sopranos started in 99. So you're talking one show is over 40 years. The other show is over 20 something years. And now you two are still relevant. And that's the thing. Like you've had a great career, but sometimes as time goes on, you kind of fade to the background. You two have stayed relevant and you're doing this new thing. You went from being successful actors and now you're successful musicians. So, I mean, you've never stopped and that's got to make you feel great that you are still impactful today.
If you knew me well, you wouldn't think I was relevant.
No, it's absolutely true. And I guess now with streaming, people are watching The Sopranos over and over again. People are watching Dallas. I went to one of those autograph signing events a couple weeks ago in LA, and I had these people coming up to me. I was shocked. I'm shocked when people remember me because it's 40 years ago. And not only that, I had people coming up to me and saying they've just come to Dallas now because of streaming. They didn't watch it in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, wow, Dallas is an amazing show. They're hooked on it. They're binge watching it. And I'm like, wow, a whole new audience is coming to a show that was 40 years ago.
Yeah, it really was. And I mean,
quality is quality. If something works, it works.
Yeah, it definitely does. Now, I brought this up in the beginning of the show. So, Al, I'll start with you. Piano Man was a big highlight in your career. And listen, I could listen to that song. No matter how many times that song plays, I don't change the station. Talk about what it was like for you playing Piano Man that first time.
It's oh my God, it's a vulgar story, but it wasn't. It's a riot. The first time I sang that, I was doing a pilot with Teresa Russell for Warner Brothers up in Toronto. And it was 24 years ago. And I always loved this song. I mean, oh my God, I love that song. I loved it from the minute it came out. When it came out, I was at NYU already. And I sang it, and the writer, who he wasn't gay, but we went to a gay bar. I went with the writer of this pilot, Scott Lobdell, with a few of the cast members and a couple of the producers. So, like, I was in Beatlemania for a long, long time, and I really didn't talk about it that much at the time. I wasn't singing. I was just acting. So I got up and I sang Piano Man. And can I say something vulgar that someone said to me? Will you bleep it out? I don't. So I finished the song. The place went crazy. And this gay guy comes up to me and goes, "If you could suck a penis the way you sang that song, we have something going." And my jaw dropped, and I looked at all the, and we just cracked up. That was my first experience singing Piano Man to the public, and it felt really, really good. And then the karaoke thing was a great thing because you got to sing. If you before karaoke, you either sang at a variety club or you didn't, or you sang it at home in the shower. Yeah. So I started. Anytime my friends went to a karaoke bar, I'd go and I'd sing Piano Man. Then this was after the Sopranos anyway. Then I had a dinner at the Ritz-Carlton on Central Park South with my friend Julie Weintraub and her sister, and I ran into Billy Joel. And it happened to be he was there waiting for the reviews to come out opening night of Moving Out. So I looked to my right and he's standing and I went just like this. I went, Billy Joel. And he started to laugh. I said, Al Sapienza from The Sopranos. And he's like, oh, yeah. I don't know if he really recognized me. I'll never know. But he was very, very nice. And I asked him, I said, tell me, I got you here. What's a real estate novel? And he told me the whole story of Piano Man, why he wrote it, what it was about. And now, like, it's funny. He saw me sing. He saw a video of me singing that song. I can get tickets to the Garden anytime I want. Not to sell or anything, but just for myself. And I sent his guy, and they just actually sent me a text from London. They're in London because I sent them a thing of our show, and it wasn't Billy. It was the guy that I deal with all the time for Billy. It was like, we can't make it. We're in London performing. So he explained that whole song, and then it was different to me. And when I explain this to the audience, it's different to them when I sing it. So I love singing that song, and it's just great.
Yeah, and it really is. And I mean, like I said, it has stood the test of time because young generations of fans who weren't around when he first performed it, I mean, they love it to this day. I mean, it doesn't get old. It really doesn't.
I was with this producer a few weeks ago in LA. Chris, what's Chris's last name? Chris
Phillips.
Chris Phillips. And of course, he drags me to a karaoke bar, and I sang it in Hollywood. And they went nuts. Like it was packed. This place was packed, and I sang it, and they went crazy, like really crazy. It was pretty fun. Anyway,
yeah, and
3 months ago or 4 months
and
ago.
Deborah, I don't care what anybody says. Barbra Streisand, to me, when it comes to that voice, she doesn't have to take a backseat to anybody. She has been that phenomenal throughout her career. So what was that like for you when you performed People that first time? Because I know that was a big thrill for you. And I mean, just to, emulate somebody's work like that and perform it so well had to be a great feeling.
Well, I have to tell you that. So I grew up totally idolizing her.
Yeah.
And, seeing her in Funny Girl, On a Clear Day, Hello, Dolly. I was like 9 years old, and I thought she was it. I wanted to be her. And she is one of the main reasons I wanted to become a singer. I just thought she was phenomenal, and so, when we first started singing, I couldn't imagine singing one of her songs. It was like, I can't possibly sing one of her songs. I just can't. And it took several years, and I was practicing it, and Al would hear me sing it, and he'd be like, Deb, you sound great. You said, oh, no, I'm not good enough. I couldn't do it. And I actually, when I was married, my husband was a filmmaker, and I actually had the opportunity to meet her on several occasions. And I went to a small dinner party at her home, and she had recently done these renovations to her. She has a lot of property in Malibu, right? So she's got her main house, and then there was a couple of other houses. She had turned a barn into a sort of a guest house. And in the basement, she created this, what looks like Main Street USA. I don't know why, but she had it in her mind that she wanted to do this. So she made it like these shops, windows, and like there were little stores. And so it was literally a dinner party of 8. So there were 4 women, me, her, and 2 other women.
Wow.
If you can imagine, it was Mary Steenburgen and Diane Lane were the only other 2 people.
Diane Lane.
And so she's giving us a tour. There's 4 of us. And in one of the rooms, she had the costumes from some of her, more famous movies, from Hello, Dolly, from On a Clear Day, from Funny Girl. And I'm standing there like, I'm trying to not faint because I'm standing next to my idol and who's giving me a tour of her home. And I'm standing in the room with the costumes that I grew up looking at her on the screen and idolizing her in. And my brain just couldn't comprehend that this was actually happening. And I was so starstruck, Mike, I couldn't even say to her, I idolized you. I became a singer because I wanted to be you. I I was too embarrassed, So I sort of stood there smiling and acting like, oh yeah, this goes on all the time. This is a normal dinner party for me, But a few years later, Al and I, we started doing the singing, and he started telling me, Dad, you sing these songs amazing. And I was like, oh no, I don't even know how I could do it. But gradually getting confidence, and in our show, I do a whole introduction where I talk about how much she meant to me, because I seriously still feel like I don't have the right to sing her songs, but I dedicate it to her. I thank her for her inspiration, and I dedicate these songs to her because they mean so much to me. So for me now, to hear you say what you said about how I sing people, and some of the people that are now talking to me about, wow, you blew us away on that. I can't tell you what it means to me.
As far as people, like the first Streisand song we could get her to sing was You Don't Bring Me Flowers, the duet.
Right. Yeah.
And then she started doing cabaret. And Deb's been a dancer since she was 3 years old. So she dances in our show also, to cabaret, to Don't Rain on My Parade, really dances, and to Downtown. So we were playing Vegas, and she got the flu or food poisoning or something, and almost had to cancel the show. But she got there. I had to fly out early. I rehearsed with the band and everything. And she was singing People for the first time in rehearsal on a bench in front of the band in this place. And I have to be honest with you, it not because it was her, it brought tears to my eyes, the way she was singing it. It was that good. And she didn't understand yet how good she sang the song, and we told her, and then we had to just pick a few songs for the PNC. We're only on for 45 minutes. Our show's 2 hours, and we could sing for 4 hours. We have that many songs. So Tommy James and his manager Carol were like, and his main guitar player, who was playing guitar with us this show. Tommy James is Jonathan Ash is playing with us. And they were like, you have to do People. You absolutely have to do People. You can't leave that out of the show. And she wasn't aware, how great it was. But it's interesting. People definitely react to the song.
Yeah, I mean, it really is tremendous. Now, let's talk about tomorrow night. And first off, what I wanted to ask you both, I mean, listen, I loved Herman's Hermits. Mrs. Brown, You Got a Lovely Daughter is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Me too.
Have you both met, especially Peter, who's a tremendous singer? Have you met the band or not yet?
We haven't, but we saw him. We saw Peter about a year and a half ago, maybe, at the Cutting Room, which is the place we also play at here in New York City. And we just loved him. We were like, wow, this guy's amazing. He looks phenomenal still. He sounds great. He's hilariously funny, which I never knew. This man could have been just a comedian. He's that. Yeah. He doesn't even have to sing. And we were so blown away by him. And I think we just basically said like hi briefly to him as he was leaving. But I really don't know him. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him tomorrow and meeting them all.
I saw him about 5 years ago before this. And I mean, it sounds ridiculous because I idolized, and it just sounds ridiculous. I idolized Johnny Carson. I think Johnny Carson just had a combination of sex appeal, humor, wit, intelligence, and class and dignity. No one comes close. Letterman didn't come close. The guys today, as far as I'm concerned, they're clowns. I can't watch them. I have no interest in their personalities or their view of the world. So Peter Noone was working that audience, improving stuff, getting answers that he didn't know were coming. That guy could have been a brilliant stand-up comic talk show host. He is so talented, so multifaceted. He's still handsome. He still has a full head of hair. He's thin. He's got energy, and he's young looking. Looks like he's 48 years old. When he's on stage. Sounds great. The songs sound great, and I think they're terrific. And he has a show on Sirius Radio every week.
Yeah. And if you remember correctly, in the early 90s, he had a great show on VH1 called My Generation. And
I didn't know that.
He would play songs from his era, you know, when he performed and other artists performed. And I mean, God, I used to love watching that because I mean, he put some great stuff out there for people to listen to. So I mean, he's a real credit to the music industry. So that right there, again, we talk about validation. That's got to be validation.
Opening for him.
We're so honored.
And he, Mrs. Brown, you have a lovely daughter, is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Tremendous.
And, you know, that and Sylvia's Mother. Did you like Sylvia's Mother?
Oh, yes.
Sylvia's Mother said. Those were like my two favorite love songs like that. And then, of course, everything Paul McCartney did. But
and the thing of it is, it's not fair. We're in different eras, so we loved the music we loved. But I just felt like back then, there wasn't just songs being played. There was a story being told, and there was so much magic and beautiful music being made back then that's something we just haven't seen in a long time. And
that's why we predominantly are singing music from that era, because we can't find anything written currently that we love as much. It's very hard.
Yeah, it really is.
The 60s and 70s, they were a time when society was changing drastically. Like drastically. It was pretty much the same, you know, till 1960 when Kennedy was elected. You know, women had a certain place in America, except for a few scattered exceptions. Women had a place. Husbands had a place. Marriage had a certain parameter that it was supposed to be. And who was supposed to contribute what? Men brought home the money. Women took care of the kids, cooked. You know, people didn't have the money in those days to get dry cleaners and cleaning ladies and maids. Now you can live alone. You don't need a wife. You don't need anything unless you want to have a family, right? So that was the beginning of those changes, of women being allowed to enjoy sex, women being allowed to talk about sex, you know, men being and all those songs, you know, it was an incredible time, and personal freedom, and, you know, blacks coming out of segregation and out of, you know, a lot of pretty mean policies in a lot of states. So it was a time when society was absolutely changing drastically. It's changing again drastically, but in a completely different way. You'd be writing songs now about freedoms and control and political parties and greed. And that's why all the songs are angry and like, let's shoot cops, let's kill people. Everybody's pissed off.
Yeah.
Pissed off, you know.
And back then, I mean, like you said, it was about peace and hope and
brother.
You know, it's not there anymore. But that's why, you know, people really appreciate the music you play, because you're bringing them back to a time when they really loved life and life was simple and things like that. So just talk to us. You're going to go on for what, 45 minutes tomorrow or something like that. So just talk about how many songs you might be able to play and what to expect. And it's also a big deal too that you're playing at the PNC Bank Arts Center, because that's a very popular venue. So just talk about that a little bit as well.
Yeah, I think we have our set list. I think it's like 12 songs.
Yeah, we're opening with You Don't Bring Me Flowers, Sweet Caroline, Downtown, She Loves You, Cabaret, Sound of Silence, Holly Holy, Brandy, All I Ask of You, People,
Stop in the Name of Love.
Stop in the Name of Love.
Nice. Twist and Shout.
Twist and Shout. Then we get them all.
I think that's it. That's what we're playing.
And I mean, that is a great way for the crowd to, it's like an appetizer. They get this great, you know, collection of songs that they get to listen to, and then they go and they get to see Herman's Hermits, you know, a popular band that's been around forever. So, I mean, it's going to be a great show for the people that are in attendance tomorrow.
It's gonna be great.
Thank
they
you.
get to hear The Lion Sleeps Tonight.
Oh,
that's right.
Tremendous. Yeah.
You know,
it's
going to be a fun night for that generation.
So, I mean, I really do applaud you too, because like I said, I mean, it's not easy to go from one career that you've done so well and then start this new one. And again, you did Beatlemania, Al, as we mentioned, and Deborah, you've always had a passion for music. but it really wasn't until 2017 when you two got together. So this is like almost a 7-year run.
Yeah,
and it's
it's
like,
really fun.
it's almost like people feel like when they listen to you, though, you've been playing 50 years. That's how successful it's been.
And it's crazy. I mean, we're not spring chickens.
We're
here.
not spring chickens.
We started this. We started this later in life, but it just goes to show you, if you have a passion for something, pursue it, because you know what? You never know. You could be successful at it, or just like us, just love doing it. And because you love doing it, you are successful. We just keep growing because we love it so much and other people love it, and it just keeps getting bigger.
And you know what? Even at that karaoke bar, I never gauged the success of my singing by what the audience did or how many people there were. Well, we used to sing in a karaoke room by ourselves for like 6 hours. We're just going, that's how this all started.
That's literally how
we'd go to the private karaoke room in Manhattan on 48th Street and would sing for 6 hours. It was
6 hours. We closed the place down.
It was light out.
Literally, we would sing until dawn. We'd walk outside at 5 in.the morning, and we're like, "Oh my God!" It felt like an hour.
Yeah.
We were having so much fun.
And the singing. Look, I'm not a doctor, but I'm sure we could Google this. I think singing makes you high. It releases endorphins or serotonin in your brain, and it makes you high. And like I said, there's no bad side effects. So, we would do it. I never gauged it. This is all a surprise to me. Like when this guy asked us to play, I played the PNC in 1981 with Beatlemania. After we played, I did the Broadway, then the national tour, then a bus and truck. In the bus and truck, we played the PNC. And I never gauged it like that. Like, this is all a surprise to me. Like, every time we get asked for somebody, we look at each other and we laugh. We're like, sure. And we play in giant, gorgeous ballrooms, and people ask us to play at weddings. And then,
can't believe our life.
And now we're playing for they say there's going to be 10,000 people there, 7,003 on the grass. They said they sold all these tickets. So, it's just.
And this came about because the guy who runs it loves us from our television.
Loves you.
He
was a Dallas fan. I'm
Dallas.
not joking, but forget me. He wouldn't have. This guy is a Dallas. He loves it. He got Larry Hagman's signatures. He got Linda Gray's. He goes to all the things. When he saw her, he was starstruck, and he came over to her and they started talking. She told him to sing. He goes, I book people. We'll have you sing. And boom, that's how this happened. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it really is. And you know what I think, too, for both of you? People now, when they watch Sopranos and they see your character, Mikey, they could be like, God, what a voice. They've seen your stuff on YouTube or seen you live. And the same thing for you, Deborah. They don't just look at the two of you as Sly and Mikey anymore. They can look at you as Al and Deborah, these phenomenal singers. So that has to be a great feeling, too. And that's the other thing, too. When you're performing like that, now I would hope that most people who are TV fans have seen Dallas and The Sopranos, but it is possible that some people haven't. But if they find out just by watching your music that you were in these TV shows, they're going to go check it out. So then you get a whole new audience for those shows. And that just keeps the tradition of those shows going as well by the fans you have from your music.
And what we do in our show, Mike, is actually at the beginning of our show, we have a video montage of our acting work.
Yeah.
Which was Al's idea. And I'm terrible because I thought it was a cheesy idea, and I fought him about it. I'm like, Al, we're not going to show our acting reel to the people who are coming to see us sing. That's horrible. Turns out he was exactly right, because we sing a few songs and then we show our montage of our work, and they're like, wait, I remember her on that. Wait, I know him from that. And it makes them even happier. They're like, oh, that's great. I remember these actors. I know who they are. And I like them in their television work. And now I'm seeing them on stage. And it just makes it even better.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Right. You're absolutely right.
And it didn't hit me till recently that and you said it before, and it didn't even hit me till recently. We were on two of the best shows ever. It's not like we were on we were on two of the best. She was on the #1 show in the world, and I was on critically what they say is one of the best shows in the world. We were on two great shows. It's not like, I was on
True.
some stupid thing for a year and a half. We were both very lucky. So people, if people do watch Dallas and The Sopranos, they'll like it. It's not like, we're going to watch some terrible thing. So look, I think I'm a very lucky human being, and I count my lucky stars every day, every single day. I don't know why, but I've been lucky,
Yeah, well, I just think it's a credit to both of you. I really do. And I look at it this way. I mean, your character, Al, had to really, he was an important figure in that first season. Basically, he was, like I said, Junior Soprano's right-hand man, and they wanted to take out Tony Soprano. And then Deborah, your character, Sly, like I said, I mean, JR double-crossed so many people. He had to have one person that he didn't double-cross. And Sly was always that person. I mean, if you remember, Sly went behind his back with Cliff Barnes because she was trying to get her brother out of jail. And he forgave her for that. He would not have forgave anybody else. He would have went out there and he saw something in Sly. I think JR saw a lot in himself in Sly, that she was like the daughter he always wanted almost. So that's a credit. That's a credit to you too, because you really helped in the success of those shows. You may not think so, but you really have, because listen, I mean, that first season is my favorite season of The Sopranos. It doesn't even come close. And I really hated that Mikey
not because I was on it, but I agree.
Yeah, I really hated that Mikey got knocked off. And listen, there's not a bad episode of Dallas. And even in the later years when they lost a lot of characters and they were adding new characters on, the show was still very good, Deborah. And again, you were part of something tremendous, as were you, Al. And now you're doing this thing with your music. So I look at it this way. I judge by what you do going backwards, going forward, and you both have been able to do it. So to me, that's a Hall of Fame career. So congratulations to both of you.
Oh, thank you.
And tell your viewers, please watch Reacher on Amazon. It's coming out in about a month. I'm in the second season. It's actually a good show. It's Reacher on Amazon. It's the Jack Reacher books. And the second season will come out soon. Check it out.
Now, are you on it every episode, or when do you come out?
I'm through the whole season.
Oh, so
through the whole season. I don't want to give anything away.
We definitely will. And Deborah, I'll just say this. They tried to do a Dallas reboot years ago. It was okay. It wasn't great. Larry's passing didn't help. But if they ever do a Dallas reboot again, I hope Sly is running the Illinois. I would think that'd be great. And Al, you know what? Like I said, I love Sopranos. I think you're a great guy. Both of you are just tremendous actors and musicians. And I really wish you luck tomorrow. This is truly something that you both have earned and deserved. And I really hope that everything goes well, and have a great show and just have fun. And thank you for everything you do for fans like myself.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mike. Thank you for having us on your show.
Take care, Mike.
No problem. And of course, that was Al Sepienza, Deborah Rennard. They are tremendous actors, tremendous musicians, and keep watching them, folks, because they are talented people. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.